I'm just saying because of how many turns Mathieu van der Poel did. I think he did so much work and he tried to split the group so many times. That is
Yes.
but we'll
Yeah.
never find out. Thank you, Puncture. But anyway, moving on. I think yeah, let us know down below if you think that if Wout van Aert is ever going to win Monument again. And I think we all kind of have our question marks over that. Maybe in the right conditions, but you never really know. But in Paris-Roubaix 2023, there was one controversial incident that I think we should just touch on. John Degenklob, a former winner, he was in the group, and then this unfortunate crash happened. And yeah, a few people were calling for Mathieu van der Poel's head, which seemed mean. I don't know. Paris-Roubaix, discuss.
I remember I saw it and I did think like I love you, Matthew, but that was a bit. I think it was just clumsy, and I think you can forgive somebody for being perhaps a bit clumsy at the end of Paris-Roubaix, where you're just using every ounce of energy just to really focus on staying upright and the tactics which are going on, and just trying to actually just pedal. Making a positioning kind of blunder like that is probably quite easy to do. I could see why he was doing it. I think he was trying to go for the gap between Philipsen and Degenkolb in hopes of detaching Wout van Aert from his wheel, making it harder for Wout to follow him, and therefore his attack would in theory be more successful because Wout van Aert wasn't on his wheel. However, Philipsen then closed that gap, which forced Van der Poel into Degenkolb, which then forced Degenkolb to crash. Should Van der Poel have received some kind of punishment for that? I think it's hard to do because by the time that you would have been able to give him the punishment, there's like 10Ks to go. You wait for him to cross the finish line, and then the UCI say, no, you didn't win because you crashed out Degenkolb. That would cause all kinds of havoc, just controversially. And I just don't think it would be something which the UCI would be brave enough to do, quite frankly. It's very hard to say what should have happened there because it's I know he crashed out Degenkolb, but let's say it was Wout van Aert in that position. Would the consequences be different? Would people be thinking differently if Degenkolb? No disrespect to him, but he wasn't the favourite in that group. If it was somebody more influential to the race, who Mathieu van der Poel crashed out there, a direct rival in Wout van Aert, for example, would that be worthwhile of further action, or seen as being a premeditated move to try and wipe out competition? Or was it just a clumsy accident and it was just one of those things which happens rarely and doesn't really warrant that much more discussion?
It's hard, isn't it? It feels like it was a racing incident, to be honest. It's the cobblestones, riders don't have control, they're going blah 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 all across the road, and these guys are at their limits. This is the most important part of the final 20 kilometers of the race. Everyone wants to be there, and Degenkolb came a cropper. It is heartbreaking as well, just sort of seeing him. He comes off, he tries to get back on his bike, and the chain is down, and he knows that's it, it's gone, and he's not going to have a chance like this ever in Roubaix again. I think that's what makes it particularly sort of emotional, is that it was John Degenklob, a guy who's overcome so much. Since he won the last Roubaix, he was in an awful accident in Spain that wiped out the chances of many people on his team, and he's had to build up from that. And he took that Tour de France stage in Roubaix in 2018. He switched teams a number of times. We're just thinking, what's he going to bring now? What's he going to bring now? Back at DSM, it's like a homecoming. And he finally got that chance in Roubaix to show everybody what he's got. And everything fell into place for him. He was in a great position, and boom, it's all gone. It's like, I think that the sort of the pathos of the incident is stronger than the motives of it. I think there wasn't really anything there. I don't think we should be reading into it too much. I don't think they can really sanction either Van der Poel or Philipsen. It's just a shame that it took out Degenkolb.
Yeah, it would probably have been a bit different. And we said this on stream if it was on the flat and not on the cobble section,
Yeah.
because you have
Yeah.
so much less control over your bike on those cobbles. It's just
And
dreadful.
and there's also some sort of risk in the fact that sort of riding on the grass as well. That sort of the battle for the maybe like 50 centimeters of verge that you can ride on, that everyone's trying to fight for. That makes it very exclusive to a cobblestone race like Roubaix, where we can't really compare and contrast. There probably aren't rules of precedent here from commissaires on how to rule on this, which is quite
Yeah.
important in terms of sports law, I guess.
Mm. It was like, do you remember Tour de France 2 years ago when there was a breakaway and Bob Jungels swagged across the road and wiped out Higuita?
Yes.
Is it not kind of like that? Was Bob, and nothing happened to Bob Jungels there, from what I can remember. I don't think he was DQ'd or anything.
Nothing happened. That was on the road out of Lyon going to the Grand
Yeah.
Colombier. Higuita crashed out of the race completely and he didn't carry on. I think Jungels eventually abandoned the Tour de France, but there was no repercussions on him. But I guess that's slightly different because it was such a sort of huge movement that he made where he went right across the road. Whereas this one, it's slight movements. If this were a sprint, it would be a different matter. But I think sprinting has a different sort of cookie cutter of rules and asterisks that we could look through.
Yeah, it's all just such a grey area, isn't it? Because the jurisdiction applies in a sprint but doesn't apply elsewhere on the road. And it's just a tricky thing, which what does the UCI do about this? Because clearly if people go around just smashing into people and nothing's done about it, then that's no good either. It was probably just a freak thing, but the UCI maybe look at their rules, and because what's his name? The dude who crashed out like most of the peloton in Flanders, he was DQ'd, but is that just because he wiped out so many people?
That was reckless.
Yeah, it was reckless, but could you also call Mathieu van der Poel's thing reckless? Where do you draw the line?
That's the line.
That's the line. How many people is it just a threshold in people? If you wipe out more than 10, then that's a DQ. But if you wipe out 9, it's fine.
That's like American murder laws, where like if you kill 5 people, you get 5 life sentences. Yeah. It's based on how many people you take down. That's how many months you have off, or how many positions you lose, whatever. Yeah. But it is a big gray area. I think there's a lack of sort of precedent before. I think that if the Matziuk incident happened last week on an uphill, which probably wouldn't, but let's say hypothetically it did, then I feel like it would be very different. I mean, for instance, in the Paris-Roubaix FAM, there was a couple sector. There was a crash that took down the whole group of favorites apart from one of the riders from AG Insurance. I know it's different, but in terms of like, is there anyone to blame? Is there anyone really to sort of point a finger at? I think that this time, because it was so close between those 3 riders, it does make it seem like there's a line of accountability, but I don't think there is accountability really to be held in Van der Poel or Phillips's court more than it is in Degenkolb's.
It is a good point though. If it is Wout van Aert going down and not John Degenklob, does something happen? Yeah, I think that's a good point, Patrick, because
all that would happen is there'll just be more fury on cycling Twitter, probably.
Jumbo Visma are bankrolling the UCI Commissaires Board conspiracy debate. I'm kidding, of course.
Yeah, people, please don't. We're just joking.
Yeah, no.
Please.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
David Lapartien, please don't come for us.
You can come on if you want. Apart from Mathieu van der Poel almost crashing into a barrier that was put up by the UCI, ASO. I mean, anyone else would have crashed on their bike. But more importantly, his teammate Jasper Philipsen